Salamander, Saiyan Salamander here, and welcome to the first Pokémon challenge video on the channel. I actually already completed this challenge over on Twitch, so if you guys haven't checked out my Twitch channel already, it'll be in the description below if you guys want to check me out. It'd be greatly appreciated. I actually finished it quite a long time ago now. It's been about 5 months, but hey, you guys are seeing it now, so poggers! As you've probably seen in the title of the video, we're going to be taking on Pokemon Black and see if we can beat it with one of my personal favourite Pokemon, Oshawott. I figured it wouldn't be difficult enough to just beat the game with only Oshawott though, because of the Eviolite and TM moves, so I set some rules up to make this a little bit more challenging. Rule number 1, I can only use Oshawott in battle. I'm allowed to use other Pokemon to get around the region with HM, so I gave myself a Mew at the start of the game, since it can learn every move and it's an insane HM slave. Rule number 2, no TMs or HMs are allowed on Oshawott, which means no Scald, no Surf, no Waterfall, no Ice Beam, X-Scissor, etc. There's a lot of good TMs Oshawott can use, but I figured I could make do with its level up moveset. Rule number 3, no items. I can heal outside of battle, otherwise Elite 4 would have been insane, but I can't heal during battle or equip items such as the Eviolite to Oshawott as a held item. I did however give it an Everstone, just so I wouldn't need to press B every time Oshawott evolves later in the game, so I gave him one at the start when I got my Mew Slave. Now that we've gone over all the rules, let's move on to the challenge. After grabbing my starter, the battles against Sharon and Bianca weren't too difficult since they were at the start of the game, but I wanted to reset to get a better natured Oshawott just in case it comes in clutch during the later game. After resetting a few times, I finally got my jolly natured Oshawott, which I named Lucina after the character in Fire Emblem Awakening. Next we stroll up to Accumula Town and take on N and his Purloin. Again without too much trouble, and we managed to get our first water type stab move, Water Gun. Next up we battle the trainers on the next route before we have our second battle with Bianca. I was kinda worried because I completely forgot to heal, but we managed to beat her first time round and make our way to Striaton City. Once we make it to Striaton City, we have another rival battle, though this time it's with Sharon. We managed to scrape by after his Snivy did a ton of damage with Vine Whip, but thankfully he didn't go to damaging moves too often. We also learned Focus Energy, so hopefully we can use that to get some RNG in some of our battles. Next we take on the Striaton City Gym. It took a few times and had to grind some levels for a bit, but eventually we managed to take the win, and we also learned Razor Shell. After that we took on some more trainers and our first Galactic Grunts before fighting Sharon again. We got bodied the first time round, but we took the W on the second try. Moving on to Nacrene City, we battle N for the second time, and we end up sweeping without taking any damage thanks to him not really going for any attacking moves. After that we enter the gym and take on all the trainers in there. Battling Lenora was a lot tougher than I thought though, considering she doesn't have the type advantage against me, but her Herdia ended up doing way too much damage, and then Watchog outsped, so I couldn't really touch it. After many failed attempts and grinding to level 26, we finally managed to beat the gym leader and take our second badge, and after that we go through Pinwood Forest to get to the Dragon Skull back, and then make our way to Castelia City. I grinded against the trainers in Castelia, but it wasn't enough to take on Berg with his Levani being a grass type and all. So I ended up going to the desert and leveling up to level 36 before finally winning and obtaining our third badge. After Castelia City, we have a rival battle one after the other with Bianca and Charon. Bianca I managed to beat first time, but as usual Charon gives us a little bit of trouble with his starter Pokemon, and with some Focus Energy RNG we managed to crit the Servine on our second attempt and take the W. Next up is Nimbasa City. After taking on some trainers in the desert and the stadiums in there, we battle N. He brought us down to 1 HP, but we still managed to beat him on the first time. Then after N we entered the Nimbasa City Gym. I was really worried about Lisa due to her having a type advantage against us, but we somehow managed to beat her on the first time, even with us getting paralysed by her Emolga. Next we start heading to Driftvale, which means another rival battle with Charon. It was a close match with his Servine almost taking us down even after we killed him because he set up a Leech Seed, but we managed to survive and also learned Sword Dance during the battle. We take on some more trainers on the way to Driftvale and then take out all the grunts hiding into cold storage before we finally make our way to the next gym leader, Clay. I figure I don't need to set up Sword Dance this battle since I have a type advantage, but his Crocrat ends up going for a Swagger to give me the attack boost regardless. After that I managed to sweep up only hitting myself once and one-shotting the rest of his Pokemon, which earns us our 5th badge in the region. I feel like there's a trend of there being rival battles after you get a gym badge at this point, because right after we fight Clay I have another rival battle, though this time it's against Bianca. Pansage is the only Pokemon of hers I was kinda worried about, but after setting up Swords Dance against her Herdia, I managed to one-shot the Doggo and then the rest of her team, and then make our way to the next route. Things were going as usual on the routes, without any real trouble, But then I went up against a trainer with a Frillish, and I completely forgot that Frillish got Water Absorb, so I couldn't really beat it with my moveset. At the time, I had Razor Shell, Swords Dance, Revenge, and Water Gun. Since Revenge didn't affect it either, and Water Gun and Razor Shell just got ate up by the Water Absorb, I had to use a Heart Scale to relearn Fury Cutter, in case something like this happens again. After dealing with a Frillish, we continue through the route and reach Chargestone Cave, which means more trainers and more Team Plasma Grunts we've got to battle before fighting the King himself, and again. For whatever reason, I don't set up at the start of a battle, but I managed to beat him on my first try, even with him having a lot of moves that are super effective against my Oshawott. After beating N, we finally reach Mistralton City, home to the best Pokémon girl, Skylar, who tells us to go to the Celestial Tower, so of course we're going to go do that, because Skylar asked us to. After clearing the route and the tower, we climb up to the top and ring the bell, and then once we're done here, Skylar tells us that she'll be waiting at the gym. Now, we receive some form of brain damage, as well as some external and internal injury from being fired out of a cannon several times around the gym, but then I finally get to battle Skylar. I managed to defeat our first two Pokemon by just spamming Razor Shell, but then against the Swanna, I decided it's better to set up a few Swords Dances first, since she resists. After that, we managed to defeat Skylar and earn our Jet Badge. After Skylar gives us our gym battle, we depart and head to Twist Mountain, but right before we get there, we get challenged to another rival battle by Charon. Looking back on the battle, I have no idea why I didn't set up a Swords Dance or two at the start, and we didn't deal enough damage to Servine, so we ended up killing Lucina with a Leaf Blade. Second time round though, I managed to set up a Swords Dance before Pheasant taunts me, and it's enough to get the job done, and I managed to get through the battle without going into the red. With Charon out of the way, we can proceed through Twist Mountain, and after wandering around and battling some trainers, we finally reach Icarus City, which means it's finally time for another gym battle. I go through the gym well enough, but I didn't heal before the gym leader, which meant I only had 3 PP for Razor Shell. Even still, I used Swords Dance and Revenge to get through the battle. But then I did take a huge amount of damage after getting swaggered by the Beartic, as a +4 attack hit to my face did over half my health. Regardless, we still won the battle on the first try and managed to get our 7th gym badge. Once we leave the gym, we get an invitation from the Shadow Triad to enter Dragon Spiral Tower, where the Plasma Grunts have invaded so their leader N can catch the legendary Pokemon Zekrom. After defeating all the grunts in the tower, we're greeted at the summit by N, who tells us he's going to beat the Pokemon League with his new best friend. After making my way through the desert resort and obtaining a pet rock from Nakarine City, I go and beat Bianca on my very first try, with absolutely no issue whatsoever. And then I make my way to Appaloosa City. I enter the gym and go to get my final badge, and I totally didn't get stuck on the gym puzzle. Okay, I kinda lied. Please help me. So after getting lost for a while, I ended up battling Drayden, and actually didn't get as much trouble as I thought I would, and beat him on my first try, even though he did manage to take me down to 9 health on the process. Which means we did it! We got our final badge, so the next thing to do is go through Victory Road. I felt like the trainers in Victory Road just hate Oshawott for whatever reason, because so many trainers had a grass type or an electric type Pokemon, and then Charon had its Superior before entering Victory Road, and holy heck it was a pain to get through. I exited the dungeon being level 74 because of how much grinding we had to do to get past some of those trainers. Now that we've made it through, it's time to fight the Elite Four. I didn't really have any problems here with Chantel or Grimsley, but I lost for the first time to Caitlyn. But then after a bit of grinding, I managed to beat everyone and entered N's castle at level 81. After reaching the top of the castle, my pet rock turns into a Reshiram, which is kinda cool I guess. But then I gotta show the dragon who's boss before I can catch it, so Lucina one-shots it with a falchion, and then I go battle N, who is by far the highest wall we encountered on this challenge. It took so many attempts to beat this Zekrom, I ended up losing count, but it took well over an hour to beat N. Even after grinding to level 100, Fusion Bolt was always a 2-shot, and since I needed a Swords Dance setup, I needed a crit with a Razor Shell in order to beat this bloody thing. I remember feeling so happy and relieved after what felt like a lifetime of fishing for crits. It was at least 3 AM for me at the time when we won the battle, but I still had one more to go before I could go to bed, which was the Getsis battle. Getsis was definitely a challenge for me, but it didn't take as much time as N took to beat. The problem here was that his Cofagrigus constantly went for Toxic, and I couldn't kill the rest of his team before the Toxic took me out. So instead of setting up Swords Dances at the start, I had to wait until either the Toxic had missed, or I crit for Cofagrigus and then set up on the next Mon. I thought I was going to win for sure after the Cofagrigus missed their Toxic, but Getsis managed to get a crit Dragon Pulse with his Hydreigon. I didn't want to take any chances here this time around, so after getting the crit on the Cofagrigus, I set up 2 Swords Dances on the Bouffalon, and managed to sweep the rest of his team, which means we finally completed our Oshawott Solo Run challenge. I hope you guys enjoyed my first challenge video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, it'd be awesome if you guys could drop a like and a comment down below saying what challenge you guys want to see me do next. I've got a couple ideas in mind already, but I'm kind of curious to see what kind of challenges you want to see me do. Don't forget to go check out my Twitch channel too, since you'll definitely see me streaming the next challenge live there first before I upload the next challenge video on YouTube. Also, go check out my friend Steve too, who made the amazing artwork of me that I used in this upload. I'll be using these in other videos like this in the future, and will definitely be commissioning him for more expressions and poses too, so go check him out. His Twitter and his Patreon will be in the description. I think that's just about everything that needs to be said, so I hope you all enjoyed the videos, my dudes. It was definitely something different for me, and I'm excited for the next one. So hopefully I'll see you guys all around the community. See ya!